decorators, and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Yvette and I'm part of the Not Too Shabby Shop design team. Today I'm participating in a collaboration hop with a few of my fellow Not Too Shabby teammates, and we're going to be playing with this amazing new Ultimate Sentiments birthday stamp. I love this. It also has coordinating dies, and I'll show you how these work in just a minute. So I'm going to make a couple of cards. Oh, and I forgot to mention, part of our collaboration theme is using our favorite KCC20 sketch. So I'm going to be using sketch number 12. That's the one I decided to use. So here is sketch number 12. And it's pretty easy, 2 different pattern papers. I'm choosing this one for a couple of reasons. I wanted to do a landscape card because I'm always doing portrait cards, so I thought it would be a nice change of pace for me. And I like that it had this rectangle here for the sentiment because I can use these coordinating dies here that go with this stamp set. Now this stamp set, friends, let me show you. It has this is one single stamp and this is another. So it has kind of heartfelt sentiments and kind of snarky sentiments, plus it has this larger happy birthday sentiment there. And because this is just one stamp, this die here, this one here, will cut all of these out in one cut, which is perfect. You can get, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 sentiments stamped and cut in one fell swoop. Now these dies, let me show you these separate ones. This larger one is perfect for the larger sentiment here. Let me flip it the right way. See, that'll fit there perfectly. And then these other ones are good to kind of layer on. So you can stamp and cut these, and then these will layer perfectly onto these ones. Now these will also layer onto this one nicely, and I'll show you that in just a second. What I'm going to use to make my cards is this Make-A-Wish paper pack and coordinating ephemera. Now this was part of the November paper pack club. I will be sure to link to the Not Too Shabby shop in the description box below so that you can take a peek at all these wonderful Not Too Shabby goodies. Did I mention? I don't think I mentioned. This stamp and die set, Design Genius from Lynn of LV Handcrafted. She has done a wonderful job of designing fun dies and stamps. So thank you, Lynn. So I've gone ahead and cut all my paper and ready to go so I can make 2 cards. Now I made 1 card ahead of time, as you can see here, using that same sketch. Let me show you the sketch again. So this is the sketch and I used it here. And then instead of stars here, I used these 3 pieces of ephemera. Now here, what I did a little bit differently is I used that larger rectangle die to cut out this cardstock, and then I stamped the larger happy birthday towards the top half of, the top half of that die cut piece, and then I stamped a single one of those sentiments from that full list of sentiments so that they kind of looked as though it was one sentiment on this stamp. So it says, "Happy birthday, calories don't count today." Kind of cute, huh? So I've gone ahead and cut my papers and my sentiments for the other 2 cards. But before I do that, I keep forgetting I wanted to show you. Let me show you how this works. So I have a piece of cardstock here, just white cardstock. And I'm going to stamp the more sentimental sentiments, you know, heartfelt sentiments. And I'm going to start with those because I've already stamped these snarky ones, and you'll see those in the cards I make. So just laying this here kind of centered so that I have some space for the die to go around it. And I'm using my Misty so that I can get a nice stamping on here. Just going to stamp this with some amalgam ink. And this is the first time I'm using this one. Oh darn, I didn't condition it, but let's just go with it, right? Since I'm using my Misty, I can stamp it more than once. So see, this was the first time I stamped, that's not a bad stamping for the first time I used this stamp set. Okay. And We'll stamp back down. And I don't want to press too hard either, because when you have like smaller sentiments like this that are more detailed, if you press super hard, it kind of distorts the way the stamping looks, and that's not what we want. We want some nice, crisp, clean sentiment strips. Okay, I think a third stamping will be more than sufficient. I could have also used my VersaFine ink, and that would have done a good job, but I tend to smudge that every time I use it because I have no patience and I touch it before it's ready. Okay, so there's those sentiments. Let me set this aside, and I will bring in my mini Empress. Okay, so all I'm gonna do here is get my sentiments and my die lined up so that I can cut these out. So it's super easy to line up. You can clearly see where it's centered and where to place it. You could also die cut first and then try and leave all the sentiments in the die and stamp it, or just die cut a bunch of these strips and be more selective on which sentiment you stamp. Those are some options. And then I'm just adding some of this tape on the side to kind of hold it in place. And it cuts beautifully. Let me show you. Here we go. See, there's all our sentiments. They all popped out super easily. And I have 10 sentiments with just one pass in my die cut machine. All right, now that I have those, what I'll do is the ones I don't use, I will store in the back of the stamp set pocket. And that way, when I'm ready to look for a sentiment, I have a few stamped and ready to go. Okay, now let's get to making the cards that I did prepare. Here's the first one. So you'll see I have all my papers cut and ready to go. And what I did here for the sentiment is I stamped that larger one. I used one of the layering label dies and then the larger one. So let me add that, put those layers together. So you saw on the first card I did kind of did it on one of the larger rectangle die, and all I did was stamp 2 sentiments on there, so it looked like it was one. Here I'm putting happy birthday here, so this is what's going to go on the front of my card, and then on the inside of my card I can put this one that says you're vintage, let's label you by year. I love that. So let's put our card together here as quickly as we can. I did try and get everything cut and ready to go so that it was merely assembling our cards. Now be sure you follow the hop, friends. It is always fun for me to see how different creators use new products so differently. I'm kind of a pattern paper girl myself, so I use a lot of pattern paper when making my cards. And having sentiments like this just ready to go, all stamped and die cut, is perfect. So I don't have to worry about stamping as I am creating. Okay, and then here you'll see I already kind of cut the little banner flag at the bottom. I just used a little banner punch I have. And I'll layer this on my cardstock and add this. I'll also be sure to link to Kendra's card challenge in the description box, my friends, in case you would like to join this quarter's challenge. It is lots of fun to join. Okay, then I can add this, and what I'm going to do there is you'll see it kind of has a little bump because of the layers. So I'm going to get some of my scrap paper and just trim a couple of pieces because I'm putting this over 2 layers of paper. So back here, I'll simply add a little bit of liquid glue to add one layer. And then a second layer here. Really easy to do when you have scraps. This is a great way to use up the scraps that you have left after you've cut like your matte layers or die cut pieces. And then I'm going to go ahead and attach this here. And then I can add my ephemera. So I'm going to add this cute little bunny holding the balloons. Isn't that cute? I love it. So this little bunny is going to go right there. Then I'm going to add, oh, let me screw over, cover the H in happy. Then I'll add this ice cream cone right here. Then I'll add this beautiful butterfly right about here, kind of following the trio of embellishments on the sketch. Then I can add this to my card base, and we can add our sentiment to the inside of our card. So let me put this here. And then the inside, you know, now that I'm thinking about it, I might want to put it on another little die cut rectangle. So let's see which ones I have cut. I think I want to use this one right there. That'll be good. Okay. So I'll just add that with a little bit of liquid glue, and you'll see how this layers perfectly in here. Love it. Love it. And then I can add this to the inside of our card as our inside sentiment. Right about there. Isn't that cute? Okay, so there's our second card. Now our third card, what I did was on this matte layer, I went ahead and stamped the happy birthday portion there. And then I can go ahead and add my other pieces. So again, putting together my pattern paper on the matte layers, really easy. And that's, I think, one of the fun things about Kendra's card challenges too. She makes it so easy. She lists what the dimensions are of each card or each piece of paper for each card sketch, as well as the matte layers. So that's very helpful. All right, so see, I'm centering that there. Then I can add my little banner flag. And I love these papers from Not Too Shabby. They are so much fun to work with. Okay, so that one's going to go there. Oh, my tape runner. I think it's running out. Okay, so I will attach this right here. Then I'm going to put this kind of layered, triple layered. So the sentiment, this pink scalloped rectangle, and then the teal stitched rectangle. So I'll have a couple of layers on the front. And I'm not going to use the three pieces of embellishments or ephemera as called for in the sketch, which is fine. You can always change your sketch up slightly to make it your own. I think sketches are a great jumping off point. They really help get the creative juices flowing, as does this beautiful pattern paper and this amazing stamp set. Okay, let me add some more scraps of pattern paper there just to lift it up. This time I'll add the ink the glue to that back of the extra scrap there, just to make sure I have it in the right place. And then I can add that right to our panel here. Now I'm going to lower this just slightly, and actually I should have tested. I'm going to put this piece of ephemera with these two birds holding this fun sign. So I want to make sure that they're not covering the happy birthday when I place them on there. So they're going to be kind of standing on this happy birthday banner. Okay, and do I want to pop them up or not? I think not. I'm just going to lay them flat. And that's one of the beautiful things about Not Too Shabby as well. She has such amazing coordinating ephemera to go with her pattern papers. So perfect. Okay, now I can add this to my card base. And then we'll have our third card complete. And if I want to add a sentiment to the inside later, I can do that. I can also add a piece of ephemera to the inside, but let me show you our 3 cards. So you can see they're all the same sketch, but they're different in their own way. So here I used the rectangle die cuts and stamped the larger happy birthday sentiment and then stamped just one of those smaller sentiments. So what I did was I used this top one, and so when I placed it in my Misty, I only placed it there to stamp it there. And I could have done any of them. I would have just had to mask off the surrounding ones. So sentiments all in one right here. Then on the second one, I just did the happy birthday on the front, and then I put it on one of the layering rectangle dies, and this has kind of a squiggly edge. Added some ephemera, and then on the inside I added the sentiment that says your vintage, let's label you by year. And then I did layer that on another one of those die cuts. And then on our third one, I did both sentiments on the front, but I kind of separated them out. So I stamped the happy birthday up here on my matte layer, and then I stamped the I used this stamp and die cut sentiment that says you're not old, just close to expired. I think that's so funny. And then kind of double matted it. So on the pink scalloped stitched rectangle, and then on the teal stitched rectangle. And I think they all look cute in their own way. Oh, and on this one I did pop up the ephemera. Let me show you. See if you can tell. This popped up a little bit. So same but different. Thanks for sticking around to the end. I'd be thrilled if you subscribed to my YouTube channel or followed me on any of my other social media platforms. As always, have a beautiful, safe, and creative day. Thanks for watching. Bye.